would like to heal emotional wounds and build unshakable confidence. Tori will tell us how to do it. And what's so special about Tori is she helps women heal deep emotional wounds, build unshakable confidence, and create secure, fulfilling relationships, starting from the inside out. So, Tori, tell us about how someone who has emotional wounds can overcome them.
Heal Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever. Shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, so emotional wounds show up primarily in our relationships, and they can be past relationships that our parents, lots of things create emotional wounds in us, and we don't even recognize it. Sometimes it's a difficult boss, and that's how we ended up relating with other people. Sometimes it's a critical parent. And so looking for how it's showing up in our relationships, it's going to be feeling triggered very easily. It's going to be basically being anxious, avoidant, all kinds of ways that it shows up, but it's kind of looking for what it is in our life that's not feeling good in our relationships and recognizing that we have the power to heal them if we look backward. And for me, it's a lot about trauma and emotional stress. And that's been my own experience as well. Grew up with a lot of trauma, grew up in a difficult situation. My mother was actually an addict. And so I've had to heal at a lot of deep levels, and I've spent the last 15 years helping women do the same. So whenever there's something showing up in our relationship, it's often about us as well, and the partners that we attract have to do with our own emotional wounds.
Thank you. Tell us, for example, for someone who is an anxious, attached person.
Yes.
Does an attached person heal their emotional wounds? Because, for example, for me, I think I am an anxious, attached person. So let's say that I'm currently single, but let's say when I was with, when I had a partnership, if my partner didn't reply to me quickly, then I would always start to worry about, okay, where is he?
Oh, totally.
Dating other girls? Is he, and then also, I was quite lucky because my ex was actually, very loyal, and he was very kind, and he never gave me any reasons to feel that way. So you can say that I felt that way, a little bit insecure only in the beginning of the relationship, in the first, I would say, 2 months or so. And then I realized, actually, I have nothing to worry about. So I completely relaxed. But I think if there was a different kind of guy that was with me, as in like in terms of partnership, I'm pretty sure that if there was someone who would give me those kind of like signals of, Lily has something to worry about, then I could turn into this jealous bitch all of the time. Like I could be like, become an investigator. I could be like, watching who is he texting, what time is he texting, all these different things. And I think that I don't think I feel that yet. So how does an anxious, attached person like me get to heal those emotional wounds of insecurity and feeling unsafe?
Yes. And now I always want to preface this with, if you're with someone who is not safe, your anxious attachment, or even if you're not anxiously attached, you will feel anxiety. So even securely attached people, when you're with an avoidant person or someone who's not safe, your intuition will pick that up, and that's usually through your nervous system and that anxiety. We know we're anxiously attached when you're with someone who is safe, who is consistent, whose words align with their actions, and we still don't trust them. And I always remind people that anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, that all started in your childhood. So we have to heal the primary wound. Under anxious attachment is typically the fear of abandonment or fear of not being good enough. And so if we can go into that for ourselves and heal that and feel it within ourselves of like, I'm okay even if they leave. I'm okay even if they don't choose me. I'm okay even if they don't think that I'm everything that they want to be with. So it's really about turning the light inward. What we do is we hold on to the love. Anxious attachment is really about gripping onto love because we don't want to lose it. And that's not a bad thing. And for you, you're not fully anxiously attached because once he showed you he was secure, you were able to relax into that. some people who are fully anxiously attached, no matter what that other person did, they would not have been able to relax. That anxiety, that watching the text, looking at their social media, that would have never stopped. Actually, the more love they felt for them, the worse that would have gotten, because they would feel more and more insecure that they're going to lose that love. So it's really that fear of loss. And we have to recognize what are the internal stories that we have about ourselves that are sometimes harder to look at. But once we fill that void within our own heart, then we actually open the space to trust someone else with our heart. But we have to be able to hold it first.
Thank you. So how could someone feel that void and, let's say, stop acting in this kind of like weird way of being controlling and almost like a private investigator? And is there any way to fill that void?
Yes. Well, first you have to learn what the void is within you. We all have it. Everybody has a not enough story, right? Whether I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, no one ever chooses me, men always cheat. We all have something within us that we're trying to protect ourselves from. Like, oh gosh, I've seen it. It comes in 1,000 ways. So I always invite my clients to look at that and say, like, what is it you're telling yourself? What is the fear that keeps coming up? What is the voice within you that keeps coming up? So it might be like, maybe you were bullied as a child. And so now you feel like I'm never going to be enough. No one's ever going to choose me. And then I have to figure out what that void is to how to fill it. What the most common one I see is owning our worth. So really seeing our deepest value, and also learning to trust ourselves, because we can't really trust anyone else until we trust ourselves. And that core wound is from the time we're little, people tell us not to trust ourselves, especially as women. We have these amazing intuitions, but we're told, oh, I don't like that uncle, but you have to hug him anyway and give him kisses and tell him that you love him. We are told to take our coat and put it on even if we're not cold. And then we stop keeping, as adults, particularly for women, we stop keeping our promises to ourselves. And so that's a big way we can start, is really journaling on what comes up for me when I'm in a relationship. What is the story that I tell myself? What is it that I really think about myself? What am I most afraid of? And then how can I keep small promises to myself every day to start trusting me? Because we tell ourselves all the times we're going to do things. I'm going to go for that job. I'm going to work out more. I'm going to drink more water, or whatever it is. And then we don't do it. And I always tell women, if anyone in the world made you promises every day and didn't keep them, would you trust them? And most of us who are sane would say no. And that's what we do to ourselves. And building that self-trust helps fill that void as well. Because if I trust myself, then I can really look at someone else and decide if I can trust them or not too. Trust is always built from the inside out. If I trust myself, then I can trust others, then I can trust life.
Thank you. How can I not select an avoidant as my partner as a way to kind of like fill that void, or maybe to as a way to like attract the opposite of what I'm like?
Yes, and anxious people tend to always attract avoidant partners. It's like two ends of a magnet that find each other, and the reason is because it's actually divine design to heal it. Because if I'm an anxious person, an avoidant will shine light on all of those things within me. Relationships at their core are really meant to help us heal our primary attachment wounds. What does that mean? That means if I have a critical mother and an emotionally absent father, the guy I'm going to be most attracted to is likely going to have both of those attributes, because my psychological self is trying to work out those wounds and heal them and get someone with those things to finally love me. But what it is I really have to learn to let those things go. So let that heal the wound within me that needs the words of affirmation or whatnot, and allow myself to process, yeah, I had a critical mother. And when someone criticizes me, I can't crumble under that criticism anymore. If someone's emotionally unavailable, I have to heal that link to that feeling like love. Because even if a lot of women don't recognize this, but even if you had a father who just worked all the time to take care of the family, that still can create a feeling of emotional unavailability. And then we end up craving partners because that's what feels like love. And so sometimes you can heal it with that person. You can actually, you do your work, they do your work, you guys come together. That's possible. Sometimes you're actually getting attracted to that emotionally unavailable person to heal it within yourself. Like I can tell you for a fact, Mr. Tall, Dark, and unemotional and emotionally unavailable was my favorite guy for a long time because I grew up with parents who are emotionally unavailable. So that's what love felt like to me. And when I started to learn that and realize that, and realize it was actually a way of protecting me from getting hurt. As long as I was with someone who was emotionally unavailable, I could never really fall deeply in love with them. And even my ex-husband, who I was with for 18 years, he was still emotionally unavailable. So there was still a part of me that was protected. And so at this point in my life, I'm really, like I'm all in emotionally, but that took a lot of that inner work, healing what are those core wounds that I gained from my parents, my previous relationships, and how am I trying to work those out now?
Thank you. So, what kind of red flags should I look out for so that I don't attract an avoidant as an anxious, attached person?
Yes. So, good question, and something. This is a tough one, but I think the biggest ones are they consistent? Like, do they text back? Do they call you? Always be aware of the guy who just will text you, like who doesn't actually pick up the phone and call or do a FaceTime or something like that. I found that's an avoidant guy. Ask him questions about his past relationships. Why didn't it work out? How long were you in those relationships? What does a fulfilling relationship look like for you? And his answers will tell you a lot about that. So if you ask that question of like, what does a fulfilling, healthy relationship look like for you? He might say something, because I did this actually, this lawyer that I dated, he said, oh, like maybe hanging out a few times a week. I was like, oh, he doesn't really want a partnership. He wants a buddy that he can go out maybe a couple nights a week with. And that was like, okay, he's avoidant. But you're looking for like, do their words and their actions align? Are they investing their time and their money in you? That means they're planning dates, they're taking you out, they're calling you, they're consistent in their texting. Doesn't mean all the time when it's new. That's one thing that's confusing for people. If you're dating a new guy and it's only been 1 or 2 dates, it's okay if he goes a day or two without contacting you. You're not at boyfriend status yet. That's okay. But as the relationship builds, he also tells you more vulnerable things about himself. So why his past relationships didn't work out? What does he want in this relationship? Did he have a happy family? An avoidant will avoid a lot of those questions with you. Just like the word avoidant, see what they avoid. Watch their body language. Do they try to change the subject? Do they turn away from you? Do they look away? These are very subtle tells that will start to tell you that when things get emotional, they turn away, they shut down, and they don't want to have those conversations. There's a lot of great simple questions you can ask, like I said, that are just like, what does a healthy relationship look like for you? What is it that you want in a partner? If they haven't thought about any of that, they're not really relationship seeking.
Thank you. For me, I had a lot.
Also, never date the guy who says, let's go with the flow. Walk away from him immediately. If you want a relationship, never meet him. If he says, let's see where this goes, let's go with the flow, goodbye.
So, for example, for me, I dated a guy for 14 years, and
oh wow,
and he was emotionally available, but he never wanted to talk about any of the previous relationships. And I actually think it worked out, because it did. The reason why it worked out was because I find it avoids a lot of the jealousy you might have and comparing and this kind of thing, and I was very, very lucky. But now, because I'm single again, I'm scared of, like, how do I not attract an avoidance? Like, what do I need to do? Like, in terms of are there any like other actions I could look out for that most avoidants tend to do? Like, aside from like talking about their previous relationships, or imagining what. Or talking about the previous things that they have done and something.
So let's clarify what I mean about talking about a previous relationship. So it doesn't mean that they tell you about her or how they loved her, anything. It's more about why didn't it work out? It's more about what are you looking for in the future? What didn't work for you in the past? So if he says like she was crazy or she was clingy, or those are red flags. If they say we were in different places at different times, or we, she took a job in another city, that's good. That shows that like it didn't work out for a good reason. And there's a lot of things that avoidants do, but you won't know right away. That's the tough thing with avoidance. Avoidants start out pretty good. That's why they actually can be attractive and charming, and they can really be all in at first. And then what happens is about 6 to 12 weeks in, they pull back. So I think one of the biggest things, because so an avoidant doesn't avoid until things get real. Does that make sense? Like, they'll be all in, they'll date you, they'll like you, etc. I've had 3 of them recently, but like, it's when it comes to the getting like into the relationship, into the depth of things, that's when you'll see the shift. So you have to look for some of the signs up front, but it's really going to be like, A, trusting your gut, B, making it very clear what you want up front, and C, looking for some of those tells. Like if he's like, we can just go with the flow, let's see where it goes. He's never had a relationship before. These are all things that are going to, like, think of it this way in psychology, because, I have 3 degrees in psychology. Past behavior often predicts future behavior. So if I can understand a little bit about your past, your childhood, how your parents' relationship was, what were those relationship models, how do you relate to people? Do they have close friends? Do they have a community? Avoidants typically won't have that. So you can really look at their life. And also, are they including you in their life?
Are there any like special routines that I could develop as an anxious attached person that would help me to become more secure? And because I don't know if I could cope with an avoidant in my life, but I'm thinking perhaps the people that are secure in themselves, do they find it a lot easier to cope with people who are like, let's say, taking 3 days to 5 days or 7 days to send you another text or things like that?
So a secure, I don't want to demonize any style, because even avoidants can be great partners. They just have work to do, just like anxious people. And then there's a third type, I don't know if you know, but there's the anxious avoidant that are both. And they're the ones with the most trauma, and they go back and forth. One day they're anxious, one day they're avoidant. So they all can be healed. Yeah, we call it ambivalent, anxious avoidant. It's like a switch hitter, someone who goes back and forth. So you could get one person one day and another person next week. So all of these styles, a securely attached person, the difference with them versus an anxious or an avoidant person, someone doesn't respond for, let's say, 5 days, an anxiously attached person will keep texting. They're gonna send multiple texts. An avoidant person's gonna say, fine, I won't respond to you either. A secure person is going to reach out and say, hey, I don't know what happened. I haven't heard from you in 5 days. Are you okay? They're going to say, and then when that person, if they respond, they're going to respond healthfully and say, just so you know, not responding to me is not an option. It's not respectful. And so daily routines that you could do, journaling and nervous system work are the 2 biggest things. What do I mean by that? I mean, sitting with yourself and getting really honest about your feelings that are coming up around relationship, around yourself, just journaling out your feelings so that they don't bottle up inside of you. Because the one thing I know about anxious people, I've worked with a lot of anxious women. I tend to have them a little bit in myself, but we're deep feelers. We feel everything. We have a lot of love to give. And so it's really being in tune with that. And then when something happens with someone, instead of making up a story, calming ourselves down with breath work, meditation, anything that works for you, taking a walk, getting calm, and then having a conversation. So like, let's say, like my boyfriend didn't text me for 3 hours and normally he checks in. My mind might start spinning as to why he's done that. Is he mad at me? Did I say something? Like that might happen, right? And so sitting with myself and going, okay, what am I worried about? And then how can I bring that up to him and just say like, hey, normally you text me every so often and I got a little bit in my head, like what was happening. So get really curious and actually ask the other person and start to learn how to have those difficult conversations instead of sit in that pain ourselves, which anxious women will typically do. They'll make up a bunch of stories and they won't know how to repair it. But that's how you learn to feel secure with that person, is you start to understand why that happened. Like, oh, sorry, babe, I was really busy with work. I didn't mean to. And that's a good response. Like, you're right. I didn't text for a couple hours. I was so busy, but I should have let you know I was busy and I wasn't going to reach out. And it's also asking for that reassurance. Like, hey, when I don't hear from you, I can get in my head. I know it might not always be not easy for you, but I would love it if you'd really make an effort to do this. Like, reach out every couple hours. Make sure you call me in the evening before bed. Whatever it is that will make you feel more secure, it's okay to ask for it. And I think women don't feel okay to ask for it, but the right man will give it to you.
What about people who never say sorry or never take responsibility for anything they have done or haven't done? How do you heal when, let's say, you're feeling very hurt by the fact that, let's say, you know that your partner did this or didn't do this, and then it just means nothing to them that they haven't apologized, they will not even admit that they've done it, although you know they did do it.
Yeah, I mean, that borders more on like, abuse, honestly. Someone who takes no accountability, no responsibility, that, falls, and I hate this word, everyone uses it now, but it does fall on what we call the narcissistic spectrum. And some, there are narcissists out there, but I always remind people that psychologically only about 10% of the population is. So not every ex-boyfriend that we have as a narcissist is just statistically impossible, even though I feel like that's a really hot, like, buzzword right now. But that doesn't mean that person wasn't selfish and uncaring. And so that's really the hard part, is recognizing, and this happens with our parents too, right? Parents will do awful things to us and they never apologize. So it's the same wound that we have to heal. It's kind of a betrayal. So it's healing the betrayal within ourselves of knowing that someone will not acknowledge our pain, but I'm going to acknowledge my pain and I'm going to take care of myself. And I'm going to let that person know, you did all these things, and I want you to know that this is why I'm leaving, or this is why I'm walking away, or whatever it is, making it very clear. I don't care if it's writing them a letter, an email, a text, you put it all back on them, and then you work on healing yourself. There's an old Indian proverb that I love that talks about this. It says, when a snake bites you, you don't have to chase the snake down and ask it why it bit you. It's the snake's nature, and it'll probably just bite you again. So you let the snake go and you work on healing the poison that they left you with. And that is a great thing to look for in your next partner, is, do they take accountability? Do they apologize, even for the small things? Because that will lead to the big things later.
That is fascinating. Tell us where entrepreneurs can connect with you.
Yes, so you can find me at my website, which is www.torijenae.com, which is TORIJENAE.com. And then also on Instagram is easy, at tori.jenae. So either of those are great. And I have some free resources on there. One is a guide to healing the 7 psychological emotional wounds, like the guilt wound, the betrayal wound, the not enough wound. So there's a great ebook on there about like how these wounds show up in your life, how they show up in your relationships, how they feel, and some tips and tools to start healing them right away.
Thank you.
Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health change makers to live your healthiest life ever.